Joseph, you forgot to upload for a week!
No! Aardbud. Good afternoon, my Cracker Tugas. I'm MBT, and this is 20 Spirit Testing. Moonrise is about to rise, but before we completely overhaul our content, we have one more release to test. Earth is dead, long live Earth. Presenting Aardbud,
the Anteater.
So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, if you've been compelled to casting by my videos, I've got great news for me! I've got an affiliate code in the Elestrals shop, so if you're picking up cardboard or plushies, please use that link down there. It helps the channel immensely. Now back to the video. With that, let's assess Aardbud. Aardbud is a Moonrise Elestral that's come to us a little bit early, a la Drakid and Titanostrike. But unlike those two stinkers, this one might actually be good. Aardbud's got an insane receive effect. When he gets an Earth, he can search your deck for an Insectoid. He can also disenchant from an Insectoid to rank up into Aardvarem, which doesn't matter much now, as the third stage in this Ascension line is locked behind Moonrise's release, but still, this seems like an easy fit for Earth, right? While Mudlet's independently powerful, Earth Nexus desperately wants a fantastic receive Elestral, something that could plus like the bunny, and Aardbud's natural synergy with Viscerus and Spectrus make it the perfect choice. Is what I would have said last month. Between getting to see this card for the first time and now, a ban list has dropped that limited, well, the best way for Earth to Nexus, Equilinx, the best thing for Earth to Nexus from, Demeter, the best way to find the Nexus target, Elechick, and even the best Aardbud search, Viscerus. The stars have aligned to ensure this card sucks ass. Nevertheless, we have options. I've loaded up on other Nexusers, Bloom and Alter, other targets for the Nexus, Jolton and Feloy, and even other search targets, Spectrus, which seems pretty good into a water metagame. So with that, let's get into the card by card. We've got 3 Aardbud, 1 copy of Aardvarem, 1 copy of Equilinx, 3 copies of Mudlet, double Viscerus, 3 Astrabbit, 1 Elechick, and 2 Jolton. I really needed something else to Nexus from, and Feloy Forest is going to have to do. We're playing 2 Spectrus, firstly because it's searchable off of Aardbud, but secondly because it does stack up pretty well against Galaxies and Foamy. Finally, we are on an Earthquake, double Bloom, a Demeter, the Tsunamis, Ambro, Resting on Your Laurels, double Alter, triple Gorgon's Gaze, triple PTA, double Shield of Achilles. I should mention there's probably another way to play this deck, which is to take the existing like Earth, Thunder, Nexus shell and just jam a couple of Aardbud into it with the understanding that all this is really going to be able to get is Viscerus. Maybe you can splash for 1 Spectrus if you attempt to get 2 activations out of this bad boy. Either way, it's going to look something like this. In the Spirit deck, we've got 13 Teratlus, 1 Leviathan, 4 Zaptor, and 2 Owloon. So let's check out a game. Our match is up against PK Sparks on a wind deck I think you're going to find really sexy. So as you can see, we are going to begin with a copy of the Bunny, and we've got everything we need in this opener. We have the Elechick, which is a way, of course, to find a thing to Nexus from, the Bloom, which performs the Nexus, and now the Aardbud itself. Now, this seems like a pretty steep combo, and I'll be completely honest with you, we played a lot of games in which I didn't even find it, but even those games, it's just fine to slam down an Aardbud, threaten Viscerus on the next turn. It's like a turn 1 play that competes with Astrabbit for your turn 1, and you're just playing Earth Nexus at that point, which is a great place to be. But of course, this is about showing off the synergies in the combo, so I do want to find a scenario in which we're actually going to be able to resolve it. We're going to go for the Aardbud here, try to search a Viscerus out and threaten a big turn next turn with the Feloy to get over the Astrabbit. PK Sparks spends a lot of time in the tank on this one and finally elects to use a Gorgon's Gaze on this card, which I am so happy to see. It means that I am not going to have to worry about Gorgon's Gaze going forward. There's at least 1 gone. We're going to go for Feloy here because that's the necessary Nexuser to get to the Nexus-y Aardbud here. And then PK Sparks is going to Cryoblast Aardbud. That is kind of a natural enemy to this card with 1 defense. We can still make it work. We're going to go for Bloom, and I don't know how it looks on the screen, but I do this correctly. We're going to go ahead and use the Bloom, pulling off the Feloy Forest to cast, then Nexusing to the Feloy Forest and enchanting the Aardbud. Now, because the Aardbud's trigger condition has been met, its effect is going to go into Limbo, even though it is destroyed by the Cryoblast, which means we do get to resolve it and grab a Viscerus. That Viscerus and that Feloy are going to be instrumental in getting over that Aardbud next turn. I always fire the Gorgons on the Elechick, especially because it could theoretically be a 7, which is disastrous for our defense position Aardbud, which has saved us a lot of damage so far. And let's go for the Viscerous and hope for the Viscer best. If this pulls a piece of removal, it's not the end of the world. Here, a really heads-up play by PK Sparks, going for a PTA, pulling off the Elechick, because the Viscerous still gets over the Elechick otherwise, and will be able to cash in, thereby threatening the Aardbud on the next turn, even if the PTA pays out. Here, just paying out at end step, immediately contesting the Viscerous, and now I don't have a follow-up one. I feel pretty comfortable that the Elechick is going to be able to get over from this position, and then I see the Toxiswarm, and I'm like, oh, I have really misjudged what's going to happen this game. This is a huge turn for PK. They're going to go for Necklace of Harmonia, targeting their Aardbud to put it to 7. And getting to a position where there's a Toxiswarm on the board and the board state is simplified is disastrous. We're going to go Gorgon's Gaze on this Aardbud so it can't attack and our life is fine. But we don't really have an elegant answer to both of these cards. We have an elegant answer to one. Viscerous, a huge top deck, but unfortunately that semi-limit really hurts here, because if we were able to Viscerous over like the Toxiswarm and get a Viscerous in defense, the Aardbud couldn't clean up everything on its own, and they would have to commit more to the board while taking damage for Necklace of Harmonia. We would really be in this game. At present, this Elechick is just chilling. Like, I'm going to go for the Demeter for a great deal, and I am going to go ahead and pump that Elechick as well to get over, I believe, the Toxiswarm here. While the Necklace of Harmonia isn't perfect, it is kind of a liability for my opponent because they are taking 2 every turn that it's on the field. Of course, it's a liability for me as well. I'm reading in a deck with Toxiswarm, there's probably also Exaltair, and Exaltair onto itself here would do a ton of damage if they have something that can necessarily pump it over the Elechick. Think like a Zeus or something like those Windbox decks were wont to play just a format ago. Of course, I have no back row here, which is disastrous. They're going to go Aardbud to Foretell again. I'd rather look at the top 3 cards of the deck. Different than Foretelling, of course. I don't get to see them. We'll call it Evil Foretell. Then afterwards, they're just going to go ahead and set 1. And down goes the Elechick. I'll take 1 in the process, but they'll take 2. I'm feeling good about this Necklace. All we got to do is get into a position where we can get over it, and boy, that might do it. Let's go for the Viscerous here. It's unfortunately just going to be a whack-ass Viscerous that doesn't do what I want, but it's still got 6, so we can Demeter it up to 9 and try over the Aardbud. They will shield. Still feeling great about this. They go down to 5. They're going to go down to 3 next turn with the Necklace. They have to spend a turn getting over the Aardbud, although they do have a lot of cards in hand, and there's a lot that can turn this on its head almost immediately. Thinking here, just being able to develop something like an Exaltair or a Toxiswarm would be disastrous here. Exaltair specifically a little less scary because it can't get over the Aardbud. And it feels good to be able to have this extra Viscerous in hand, because the first Viscerous had to be dealt with through the Aardbud. The Aardbud, in that way, traded for 3 cards, but in doing so did put us in a position where the card quality of our deck is a little less than our opponent, who is also playing pretty bad cards because of Exaltair. They're going to go for an Exaltair play, by the way, and Nexus onto the Aardbud, then Ambro off the Aardbud, putting them back at 7. Suddenly we have a game on our hands. Now, we can probably clean up the board state from this position just by getting the Aardbud off the field, and then our Aardbud plus the Demeter over the Exaltair. I think that's probably the play I'm going for. And after I see the back row, I think, oh god, like that's got to be it, right? Because now we can contest their normal as well. And I feel we've probably gotten this one wrapped up. We're going to go for the Demeter on the Aardbud. We'll clean up the entire board and just kind of dare PK Sparks to get back into it. Now, it's not impossible because PK is at 7 and 2 hour 3. 3 of our spirits are reflected in guys on the board, and the Aardbud, for instance, isn't long for this world. P-Gust comes down, and PK makes a great decision here going for the Feloy Forest. That means that the Viscerous is not going to be able to contest like a 5 defense guy, or we'll have to go even with a Sorlet maybe, which is scary. Artbud here is cool. It theoretically allows us to get into Spectaris, and I think that's probably better than doing nothing. So let's go ahead and cast the Artbud. We'll get a Spectaris, and just the ability to constantly have guys is really good, even if those guys don't always do exactly what you want. We're going to get in for 2 and pass it back to PK now on 3 cards. I feel super comfortable from this position. Down comes the Sorlet we were scared about. Okay, the Sorlet here can eat, like, let's say the Aardbud and then walk into the Viscerous. We're going to PTA the Sorlet, just deciding what I'm pulling it off here, because I don't want to get into a position where they can, like, cheat out a guy or burn me with a Toxiswarm or an Exaltair. So we're going to pull it off the Aardbud. Then we are going to lose our Aardbud and then pay it off of the deck, then cast a Misenchanted Mudlet, get in, putting him to 1, and dare him to have Toxiswarm. We're at 0. They don't have Toxiswarm. They only have Exaltair, so we win. We do it. Hooray. Whoopee. We got it. Yay. Yippee hooray. So we're back with the deck, and oh, how disappointing. You can clearly see that something's there. There's just no longer any of the pieces that make it work. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. Artbud's ETB trigger is massive. Like Bunny, you can proc this nigh infinitely, and like Bunny, it kinda wins you the game on the spot. 2, the rest of Earth is really good. Visk, Mudlet, Earthquake, and Pals are still some of the best cards going. And 3, unlike Fire Nexus, you don't really have to play any bad cards to ensure you have enough material to make repeatable Ardbud activations work. We're not hurting so bad that we're playing Argo, for instance. And the cons. 1, the hits hurt. It's so clear that Artbud could have been a 2 or 3 of to resolve stalled game states in old Earth Nexus, but it's such a huge ask to play a combo piece for a combo where 5 cards are limited. 2, the replacements are fine, but not great. Feloy isn't Demeter, Bloom isn't Equilinx, and 3, Ardvarum currently just eats up space. He's fine, but without his 3rd Ascension, he's TP pack filler, hits for 2, and does pretty much nothing else. All in all, this deck's interesting, and I'd recommend having fun with it the first week of Organized Play Season 2. But be warned, it's no Earth Nexus. There is a slight possibility that this deck becomes more playable after the reversion of the Demeter limit. You can drop the Joltons and probably the Feloys to go up on Demeter and maybe play a Plucky Sweet main. But outside of that, the gameplay is going to look pretty similar.